We're going to go game by game, matchup by matchup, identify the must-start players, the sneaky start players, the guys you may even want to bench for your fantasy football teams. But what you need to do right now is drop your start-sit questions in the comment section below. I'll answer them tonight. I'll try to help you out. And on top of that, you also need to click that subscribe button right now. We do this every Saturday afternoon. This video rolls out. I answer your questions on Saturday night, and I help you with your lineups. On top of that, we're going to go deep on the waiver wire next week. We'll do deep dives on all the trending players, so you know whether or not you need to pick them up. And on top of that, we use these videos to help you set your lineups. Click that button. Stop missing out. Our first game today, Texans Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is going to be back. We got a 44 over under. Xavier Hutchinson's questionable in this matchup, but that doesn't really matter for fantasy football unless you're in a deep league. We're looking at Joe Mixon. He's going to get volume. He's going to get opportunities. Slow game last week. We were due for that, but you're probably going to be looking at him anyways because he's getting volume. Nico Collins is Nico Collins. He's getting to work. He's getting the targets downfield. He's an elite wide receiver. You're going to have to take the bad sometimes, but more than likely, you're going to get the good no matter what. So I don't see anybody really benching Nico Collins. Tank Dell is going to be a flyer this week for a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of start-sit questions with him. 44 over-under with this matchup. This is a strange matchup with the Jaguars, especially if the Texans can get up big. Trevor Lawrence is back. They might be able to push the pace a little bit better, but I expect Tank Dell to get some opportunities in this game. We're going at the run backs here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne are back sharing the workload. Travis Etienne should get most of it, but Tank Bigsby is this roller coaster fantasy football asset that can score on any given Sunday, but he also gives you a lot of down games. Brian Thomas is the upside play. Trevor Lawrence is back. Expect him to get some deep targets, especially with them trying to push it with the Texans. Parker Washington really isn't getting enough workload for you to be interested. However, he's on the field running a lot of routes, so he could sneak something by you if you want to make a gamble in DFS. Mainly for large tournaments when you're making a ton of lineups. Like I'm saying over 100, pushing 200, 500 lineups. You're looking at him in some of those. Evan Ingram should be getting work, should be getting opportunities. Next game, Titans and Commanders. We got a 44.5 over under here. And we're looking at this game as being kind of crazy. Being kind of weird because it could be a slow game where not much is happening, or it could be a fast-paced game, especially down the stretch of the game in the witching hour, back in the third quarter, fourth quarter, where both these teams are trying to push the pace. Brian Robinson looks like he's going to be playing. Check the injury reports, but on Sleeper, it's saying he's good to go. Jeremy McNichols should be getting some opportunity in this game. Maybe not enough to be fantasy relevant, but he has snuck some touchdowns this season. Noah Brown has been getting work this year. Been getting the opportunities and targets over these last 5 weeks or so. He should at least get targets. He should at least get around 5 targets and some air yards. Whether he cashes, that's a different story. More often than not, he's not cashing, but he is getting that opportunity. Terry McLaurin, deep threat city. He's good at getting the targets. He's good at getting deep balls downfield. This is a bad matchup when it comes to pace of play and everything else. But sometimes it doesn't really matter for Scary Terry. But on top of that, he will miss on some games. But he's fairly consistent as well. One of the most consistent wide receivers in fantasy production in the National Football League. Run backs. Tony Pollard, you're looking at him with Tajay Spears questionable. Calvin Ridley, if this game pushes the pace, you should see him get some deep targets downfield. Whether or not you trust that for fantasy football, different story. Nick Westbrook is on a hell of a run when it comes to touchdowns, scoring a touchdown in every game in his last 6 or 7 games, but one of them, Chigakonkwo, went off last week, got some opportunity. He's a tight end. Tight ends are up and down. This is a matchup that's either going to be slow-paced or goes off on the back end because the Commanders like to stretch it downfield, and the Titans will have to push with that. We have a 5.5 spread here, so there's some indicators that this one could be a sneaky matchup that breaks. Cardinals, Vikings, 3.5 spread, 45 over under, so moderate on everything. Could be a tight one with high scoring. We're looking at Justin Jefferson like we do every week. Even if he busts, you're still starting Justin Jefferson because he's Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones getting workload and opportunities. If you got Aaron Jones, the only way you're benching him is if you're blessed, really, because it's really not that stacked at the running back position where you're really benching an Aaron Jones. Jordan Addison is a dart throw this week with some upside, especially if this game script breaks, which it can with the the Cardinals and Vikings. This is a very fun one to watch, a fun one on paper, and will be a fun one on TV. TJ Hockenson getting the workload, getting targets and opportunity. He's a guy you're starting and rolling out every week, and you're just rolling with the punches. James Conner just got his extension, will get work, opportunity, all the touches. Trey Benson will get some. We'll get some opportunity here, only for deeper leagues, but he's mainly a stash for fantasy football right now. An elite stash, though, because of the upside. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a roller coaster wide receiver. Can this game script really hit his peak, or is he going to be on the downs again? Because he's had a lot of down games, but he also had a few up games. Michael Wilson on the outside. Gamble dart throw, but not really one of my favorite gamble dart throws. Same with Greg Dortch. Trey McBride, stud tight end. He's a must start every week. Even if it runs bad, you're still looking back at that like, yeah, it was the right play. Steelers, Bengals, Jamar Chase, of course, because he's Jamar Chase. T. Higgins getting the deep balls downfield, getting a good target share as well with that. So if he hits, he's going to hit big. Down games are baked into that, but still the upside's there. We got a 47.5 over under, so that's good for a wide receiver too, and projecting big time fantasy production. Mike Gesicki, we got to get in the end zone. We got to score that touchdown, but the volume's there. Chase Brown is getting all the work. Workload in the passing game, up the gut. He's very explosive. I think if you got him, you're really looking at starting him. I don't think there's any other options for you unless you're blessed at running back. Run backs here, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Pick your poison with the running backs. Jalen Warren hit last week. Najee Harris has been getting the workload. George Pickens, because you're rolling him out there. Deep targets, a good volume of targets, good upside in every single week. You're just going to roll with the punches as they come. Pat Freiermuth, not really excited about him. Volume could be there with this matchup, 47.5 over under. Could get that goal line look. Again, you're looking at him, but tight ends are very volatile due to them getting mostly short targets. Seahawks, Jets, 42 over under. This one could be a slow-paced, ugly game, or it could break open. The reason why it's either or, because we got some weapons on both sides of the ball. Breece Hall's in. He will be playing or should be playing, but Braelon Allen might get more of a workload, something to pay attention to. That's an indicator that you need to get your handcuff running backs or stash running backs in order before you get to the fantasy playoffs. Because if something happens to that lead running back, everybody's going to want that backup running back. And especially if you have Breece Hall on your roster, you might as well get that insurance policy. You got Kenneth Walker, speed to burn. Sometimes the rushing production isn't there, but he'll still rack up the catches. DK Metcalf, good target share, good air yards downfield. Jaxon, Smith-Njigba sharing the workload, doing a good job this season. Multiple wide receiver 1 weeks. Tyler Lockett's an upside play. Not many people are going to look at starting him. A lot of people look at him for DFS as a guy to throw in at a cheaper cost. However, he's a guy that could sneak up on you. Noah Fant getting some workload as well. Run backs with that. We already talked about Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams sharing the targets out there from Aaron Rodgers, and they could hit on any given Sunday. If they can get going in the passing game, that could push the Seahawks, and this game could be fun. However, if the Jets be the Jets and the Seahawks just roll, they can run out the clock. This could be a slow-paced game, not a fun one. So it could go either way when it comes to the scoring. Chargers, Falcons, 47.5 over under. The ball's very concentrated in this matchup. Bijan Robinson, of course, he's an auto start for everybody. Same with Drake London. Darnell Mooney, too. Ray McLeod could be your sneaky bet here. We got a 47.5 over under, and you may have to get creative against the Chargers defense, so you might get a few extra targets. Kyle Pitts, you're starting him unless you're blessed at tight end. It's not like you're going to look to bench him and pick somebody off waivers. And if you're hoarding tight ends, you're probably got a roster issue. Your run backs, Gus Edwards the guy, but not horribly efficient this year. So you're really leery on that. You're only starting him if you're hurting at running back, or if you need a running back at flex to get those running back touches because you do not want to shoot the upside at wide receiver. Lad McConkey, Quentin, Johnston, pick your poison there. Quentin Johnston will break your heart one way or another. He'll break your heart sitting on the bench or in your lineup. He's that type of wide receiver, roller coaster player. Lad McConkey's coming to his own now as a rookie, looking good. Will Dissly getting targets. However, we got to hit in the end zone, and we got to hit just right because tight ends are going to tight end. Going to our next matchup, Colts versus Patriots here, 42.5 over under. honestly, when you look at this matchup, the only start that people are really going to peg and press that button on and feel good about is Jonathan Taylor, and you're not really going to feel that great about it in this matchup. Michael Pittman should be getting more work. He's starting to get a little bit productive. Alec Pierce with Josh Downs out should be running more routes and seeing more opportunities. A.D. Mitchell's another wide receiver to pay attention to. And also, I'm talking broad here for those players who play DFS or in deep leagues. Run backs, Ramondre Stevenson getting work and opportunity, catching balls out of the backfield, but it could be an ugly one. Antonio Gibson starting to get more work, more snaps, something to pay attention to as a dark horse if you're hurting, and then pick your poison with the wide receivers. They got a little carousel effect going on. DeMar Douglas is the safest one week in, week out when it comes to fantasy production and targets, but it's not top tier. Kayshon Boutte is running the most routes out of the three. Kendrick Bourne has been flashing a little bit more upside on less work. That's something to look at. Hunter Henry has been very steady on this team. 42.5 over under. I look at this as being a nasty matchup. You might get one or two producers for fantasy, but it may not be that great. Bucks, Panthers, 46.5 over under. Chuba Hubbard, always a must start. You're looking at him. Jonathan Brooks as the 1B back. Maybe he catches fire on a carry or two, but really you're just watching the snaps and output. We should be getting up to around 10 to 12 routes per game. That's probably going to be his average once he gets acclimated, but that might be in a few weeks. You're looking at the wide receivers. You're not going to really trust it, but there should be more volume in his matchup. So Adam Thielen could be a sneaky dart throw. Same with Xavier Legette. David Moore hit last week. I don't know if you can trust it for 2 weeks in a row, but JT Sanders is out. He is out. Scraped sleeper, saw that on there. So watch the injury reports on them and all the other players. Run backs, Bucky, Irvin, Rashad White, Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker, if you're really hurting, 18-team league, 16-team league, but Bucky Irving, Rashad White, you're throwing those guys in. Running backs score well against the Panthers. They get opportunities against the Panthers. And Bucky Irving's been hot right now. And you're looking at the wide receivers here for the Bucks. Mike Evans, as always. Jalen McMillan's been running a lot of routes. He's been busting week in, week out. Traditional 10 or 12 team leagues, it's hard to start him or recommend that. But if you're looking for a dart throw, DFS, deeper leagues, he's running a lot of routes, getting opportunities. Sterling Shepard's also getting a lot of opportunities out of the slot. You may want to look at him as well. Cade Otton, as always. Tight ends are volatile. Be leery of that. But he is getting a lot of workload, opportunities, and red zone looks. Rams, Saints. And the ball's concentrated here where it's going to go. So we know who we want to start and not to start. But we do have a 49.5 over under. The pace should be pushed. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Yeah, we know. DeMarcus Robinson will always be that dart throw. There's never going to be a guarantee whether or not he's going to hit. But if the coverage breaks while they're trying to focus on Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, he could get that big splash play. Alvin Kamara, like always, getting all the workload. Marcus Valdes-Scantling is a deep threat that could cash on any given Sunday. The rest of the wide receivers in the Saints offense not pictured are dart throw plays that you may want to think about. You got a 49.5 over under. Ancillary players in games that go off like that or predicted to go off like that actually do could hit in your lineups accidentally. Eagles, Ravens, 50.5 over under. This one should be fun. This one should be very fun to watch on TV. A.J. Brown, like always. Devonta Smith, questionable. Looks like he's going to play. Don't hold me to that. Saquon Barkley, like always. Dallas Goedert was cold last week, but could be getting that workload, especially when we got a 50.5 over under in this matchup. Run backs, we know. Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers can hit for multiple weeks, but when you decide to start him, he doesn't. But when you bench him, he hits. So pay attention to that. But this is a good matchup here and a good over-under to look at with good volume for the game. Tight ends, pick your poison. Just pick your poison with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Rashad Bateman, kind of the same way. Gets deep targets downfield, gets about 5 targets or so a game. And if we can reel in that deep ball or get a touchdown, he's going to do well for you. But there's also a lot of times where he doesn't. Niners, Bills, 44 over under. A lot of questions here. Brock Purdy, we're watching the injury report right now as of this video. Christian McCaffrey, because he's Christian McCaffrey, there's no guarantees considering the quarterback play and everything, but he's Christian McCaffrey. Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. Jennings and Samuel you're looking more at than Pearsall. Pearsall's more of a dart throw hold right now, but I'd rather be holding running backs. George Kittle, when he's healthy on the field, he's an auto start. You don't think twice about it. Run backs, James Cook should be getting some work. Nasty defense to go up against, but could volume into fantasy production. Ray Davis, just in case you got to get creative, toss him some targets, or if he gets more opportunity than expected, but you're not really starting him. You're kind of looking from afar, but he should be stashed in all leagues. If he's not stashed, you may want to pick him up, because if something happens to James Cook, we know what Ray Davis can do. Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakur, dart throw wide receivers with a lot of upside. Amari Cooper's getting targets and routes. Same with Khalil Shakur. Keon Coleman questionable, but it sounds like he might be back. But I don't think many people are going to have the balls to start Dawson Knox, but he is another option since Kincaid is out in this matchup. Monday night game, Browns and Broncos. And this is a game where there aren't really any must-starts. Like, you got to start. We got a 41.5 over-under. And you know this is going to be a weird game script. We got a good Browns defense. We got Jameis Winston there who goes YOLO. So we're going to have some good storylines from this game with Bo Nix and company and Jameis Winston. Courtland Sutton getting deep targets downfield. I can guarantee you this. He will get targets downfield. He'll get a good volume of targets, and the air yards will be there. Javonte Williams, Audric Esme, Jaleel McLaughlin. Pick your poison. Javonte Williams was cold last week. Audric Esme was wolf-ticketed to us, saying he was going to get more workload, but that could come up any given Sunday. Jaleel McLaughlin siphoning enough work to make you question what's going on in his backfield. Devon Vele's been hot these last few games, getting targets. He might get some more this week. On the run backs here, Jerry Jeudy, like always, because he's getting targets, he's getting a good target share, and they're downfield. His target share is actually increasing with Jameis Winston. Elijah Moore is a safe get off the waiver wire if you want practical targets to see if they hone into fantasy production. Cedric Tillman is a guy that you're going to have a lot of questions with, and this is a rough matchup. Targets will be there. They're always there. And the air yards will be there. It's just whether or not they cash in. And I'm not going to know that. Nobody will. But if you bring in a couple of those deep targets, it might be good. Nick Chubb, not the best matchup for you, buddy. But if you're needing 10 touches, 10 plus touches, maybe he crosses the goal line a time or two. David Njoku, same thing. But against this matchup against the Broncos, tight ends can get productive against them because you got to get creative when going up against a tough defense like this. So you might see some ancillary targets. Not a guaranteed start for you or a play for you in fantasy, but a guy to look at if you're looking for some good targets at the tight end spot. Those are the matchups for Week 13. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.